Do you know what time it is? What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Legacy of Nerd. We were just having a very awesome stream Sunday, but we have another very special stream today. We have Aaron Schoenke from Bat in the Sun here. It's backstage right now. We have a lot to get to, so we are going to go ahead and start the stream right out. I know a lot of you guys are in the chat. LeBron Fett, AZ, Ranger Restoration Repair, Rolando, Wanda, Henry, Nicholas McDaniel, all you guys, thank you for being here. I appreciate you being here. And let's introduce our co-host tonight. And you guys know him. He's from my teammate from the Countdown City Geeks. You guys, it's Retro Ray.
What's going on, guys? Got to be back.
Awesome, man. And then our man of the hour, he is the legend from Bat in the Sun, Aaron Schoenke. How are you doing, my friend?
Hey, what's going on, man? Glad to be here. Nice to see you, both you guys.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Like, I was so excited when you reached out, and it was like, holy crap, like Aaron's messaging me. So it was a really cool moment. We've been covering Legend of the White Dragon here. A lot of the people that are here, my regulars, know we've been covering for quite a bit. If you guys are a regular here, you actually know that we've had Jenna here interview a couple of times. And in those times, you guys remember she gifted me some stuff to give you guys or do a giveaway. And at the end of tonight's stream, we'll be giving away a signed Jenna Frank photo with her dad on the set of Legend of the White Dragon. And then we also got a Dragon Prime pop socket that will be given away, United States only. We'll do that at the end of the stream here, but she gave us a bunch of that stuff. I was kind of waiting closer to when you announced the movie will be coming out, so that way I can kind of build up. But you're here, man. It's a perfect opportunity for it. So everybody, if you guys have been living under a rock, Bat in the Sun is like a YouTube original. It's been around, what, like 15 years your channel's been up in?
Something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's been around a while, so we've been doing it for a little bit.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, he does a lot of fantasy matchups, but right now the big thing that he's been working on for the last 4 years, maybe 5 years, well, in production 4 years, right, is Legend of the White Dragon, which obviously features our hero and his best friend, Jason David Frank. But we'll get into that in a second because I want to get to know Aaron a little bit better. And starting off at the beginning, though, like, I've heard how you came up with the name Bat in the Sun, but like, why Bat in the Sun?
My father, he came up with it, and a lot of people think that it's like Batman related, but it actually has something to do with Batman. It's just whenever, because bats come out at night, and whenever you see bats out at dusk, generally those are the leader bats, the brave bats, the outliers. So a bat in the sun is a brave leader bat. So that's actually what Bat in the Sun is.
Okay, cool, man. And so you started your earlier stuff, like, it's still high production. Like, this is before you called it Super Power Beatdown. This was just, you were doing, like, the Batman family stuff where you were in your old Nightwing outfit where you used to do quite a bit. But like, what inspired you to start doing the things that you do?
I mean, it depends how far you want to go back, but I've always wanted to be into filmmaking. My dad's an artist, so art was very is big in my house. And playing with action figures as a kid, it's like storytelling, and you're like, I'm kind of like putting together. So I was like, I want to do this with, like, and I always say that when we're working on stuff, I'm playing with big action figures essentially. So and then we just started making content, putting it out there, and it really resonated with people. And they just kept blowing up, and we just kept staying with it. And we have a great team. Like, that's always a big thing. It's a great team. Teams. I grew up playing sports, love sports. teams win championships, not individuals.
Patriots.
Yeah, except for, Tom Brady is the exception to the rule. He just wins every year. But I'm no Tom Brady. But
you're there, man. You're there. You don't give yourself credit.
We have a great team, and we just really put a lot of our heart into it. And in the beginning, it was just like a bunch of people come together and just working their ass off, and and it really took off. So you just love it. And that's a big thing, is you just love it. And you go into comic book stores and always like, who's stronger, Thanos or Darkseid or whatever. Kind of, you compare sports a lot. and they're like, why don't we just make a show of them battling? And I was on the show Deadliest Warrior back on Spike TV like 12 years ago or whenever that was. I was one of the Aztec warriors. I was the lead pirate who fought the knight at the end, and we were like, why don't just like do like superhero stuff like that? So that's kind of how it took off.
So you mentioned figures when you were a kid. Like, what were some of the things you watched up, or were you growing up watching, or things that you remember playing with as a kid?
Oh, I mean, like the first Batman '89, love that, and and the original X-Men cartoon, and I buy all those figures like just. I have so many. I have like 10 of every one of those 92 X-Men figures in the box.
Like the original toy design?
Yeah. My goal is to eventually create basically a toy aisle in my in my studio. So I love. I mean, you can see all the stuff here. This is just a very tiny part of my collection, but I love all this stuff. A lot of people like. I hated hearing, not to throw shade at anyone, but I hated hearing like the Thor director just recently being like, I never grew up watching this stuff. I'm like, you're throwing all this stuff like it's like that's not cool, and it's the truth. So I'm glad he's saying his truth. So I'm not mad at him for speaking his truth. It's just one of those things where I was like, we'll hire people that love this stuff, because I was like, I don't like, because it, and it's like a weird thing when people adapt anything. They'll read a few comics, like like, oh, I read Long Halloween, I read Year One, I read Dark Knight Returns, I know Batman. I was like, that's not like you have to really get into it, because and when people make like Lincoln, for example, when Spielberg made Lincoln with Daniel Day-Lewis, I mean, these are top tier people. The amount of research that goes into honoring Lincoln is through the roof. They get down to every little thing. And I was like, why don't we now? Granted, Lincoln is far more important to our cultural history and progression as human beings than Batman is. But I'm like, why don't we handle that same level of respect? I mean, like, arguably in today's culture, Batman's probably more beloved than Lincoln is. Obviously he's selling a lot more merch. Not a lot of Lincoln merch is getting moved. Although, once again, not to say that Lincoln isn't important. I'm a big
I don't know.
fan
I think when things come up with Lincoln, that thing sells pretty high dollar too.
It does, and it's part of American history, and it's a big deal. But and it's not to trivialize Lincoln, because I think Lincoln is great. I love the American presidents, most of them. But it's like, why don't we have that same respect with Batman or a lot of these characters? Like, why is it just like, like they go, you know what, we can change that. We can change that. I go, can you?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Because even like when we did Wonder Woman Wolverine, like Wonder Woman her powers have changed so much over the years. Like when we do beatdowns, we try to like find these are the main power levels, and this we want to honor everyone. But Wonder Woman's powers have changed probably the most of any character we have on there. And I would go into comic stores, I would hop online and people ask like, Aaron, you ask so many questions online. I'm like, because I have to get it's like there's like for superheroes, there's like a hive mindset that we all kind of own these characters, and it's like, how do we honor all these characters, and it's like, how do you reach out to everyone? So that's just me going on a tangent about honoring the respect.
No, but that's important, because that's relevant to what you're doing now with the movie, and too, like in establishing and making your own universe. Like that's the whole thing as well. Like what when you started doing like the Super Power Beatdown, like how would you choose who would go on? Because I know you do a lot of like kind of voting polls on Facebook and kind of stuff like that. But were they things that you wanted to see, or were they things like people reached out to you like that'd be a good idea, or this and that?
In the beginning, and there's always it's always kind of who I want to see, just because if I'm gonna spend at the beginning the beatdowns didn't cost as much, now they're very expensive. But if I'm gonna end up spending 20, 30, 40,000, 50,000 of my own money, I kind of want to do the characters I like. Which people be like, well, and I was like, well, you can put up the money if you want, but so it's a lot of that. But also at the beginning though, it was like, who had costumes? Costumes? Like, can we do this? Now we make them, and now they're more durable and they're better. And you're growing. At the beginning, like I can tear apart a lot of the early beatdowns, being like, oh, like it's not, like it's terrible, it's not good. Like look at all the flaws, But there's also kind of a wonderful naive innocence about that, of like, what the heck were we doing? But that's kind of like a lot of why we chose those characters. That's why Batman's in a lot. That's why Wolverine's in it a lot. But also some of the people like, why haven't you done Green Lantern? I'm like, because he has a lot of like, he's a harder character to do. Like, we did Spider-Man once, and Spider-Man was so hard to do. We said never again. I think we did him justice. Stan Lee approved of it, but obviously the movie there could have been things better. But But Spider-Man was so hard just because of
Yeah.
his powers and his abilities. You know, street level fighters much easier to do.
Just choreography rather than
Yeah,
getting him over there, there, and there, and this and there.
yeah.
I get
Your
that.
your portrayal of the Joker, by the way, when you did that series, was awesome. You being the Joker. I mean, I'm a big Harley Quinn fan, as you can tell. I have more stuff of her. I mean, I just love everything like you. I'm like you. I have a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
It's in actually my office, but my wife took it over because she's using it for work. So this is the guest bedroom. So all our house
Nice.
kind of looks like your background there. But yeah, when you did that one, the Arkham Asylum scenes, everything that you did, the detail you went into it, that's what I love about your work. You really take your time and you put what you like into it. It's not like you're thinking out of, just coming up with stuff. You take the research and you really take the time and put the detail down to the T in the work you do. And that's what I love about your stuff, man.
So
I can't wait.
I appreciate that, and I love Batman a lot. That's probably my favorite characters that I like. I love Superman and Batman. Spider-Man also a lot of tie-ins with them, but yeah, with Joker, you know, I'm normally carrying weights like 165. I get up to like high 170s to do Nightwing muscle wise. I'm 6 foot, but for Joker, I got down to like 145. I bleached my hair and my eyebrows, make them, you know, because if you spray them green, it looks kind of tacky. And you want to go all in, and although to be quite honest, when I got down to Joker, though, I think I lost so much weight. I lost a lot of weight in my face, and I think it kind of actually aged me a little bit, because before dying is easy, everyone used to be like, "You're like 25," and now everyone's like guessing my age, and I was like, "Oh, I think Joker kind of screwed me. I should go and get one of like super facials or whatever they do." But you know, but you got to commit, and you got to, you know, do all those things. So, and that's why a lot of times, like, some people are like, "Why haven't you done like all these anime characters?" And I was like, I'm not like super in anime. That's
yeah,
not to
me too.
disrespect anime, because it's super cool, and it's like just not something that I know a lot about. You know, if you wanted me to direct or something I just know a lot about, I think that'd be kind of arrogant or wrong of me to do that, because I would end up disrespecting a lot of people, and I don't want to do that. You know, if like they go, "Aaron, we want to make a movie about what's like to grow up in Harlem," and I was like, "Don't get me to do that. I'm gonna not tell the correct story, and people are gonna be offended. Don't do, you know." So it's like, I know Batman really well. I know Spider-Man. I know Power Rangers. I know these things. I can do them, and I feel I can respect them, you know, but I would never take on a franchise and be like, "I don't know anything about this. I guess we're going to do it." You know,
and I'm not going to ask you to, because I know you throw out your voice for Joker. So, but
I can do it. I can do it for you. I mean, I can do it for you. It probably won't be the best, because what happens is normally when I do Joker, and it's weird because when I did Dying is Easy, and I know it kind of put someone off, because when I did it in the beatdowns, I did more the Mark Hamill Joker.
okay,
And that's what everyone loves. They're used to that. But I wanted to kind of like do like my own original like take on it. So I changed it a little bit. And some people were like, "Oh, you don't sound like," and I was like, "Well, that's because you have the Mark Hamill."
yeah.
You know, it's like one of
I
the
don't know. I feel like you transformed, like
You made it your own.
Yeah, man. Like when you do Joker, it's a whole new thing. Like,
and I try to do that, and I usually throw my voice up before, and like I'll go in the car and I'll scream for like 5 minutes straight to like kind of get my voice like extra raspy. But like, you know, like you know, Mark's voice, and I've not warmed up to it, but you know, like one of my favorite lines from Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, you know, it's like, "Oh, and the dear lad began to share such secrets with me, secrets that are mine alone know, Bruce." Like, that's more like Mark has like this, like, he's great. Mark is
yeah,
the king.
that's awesome.
And his laugh is so good. I can't even do his laugh. But like with my Joker, it's I try to go like not as high and low. It's more like, like one of those "Oh, where were you? Where were you when the boy cried out, Batsy?" It's like it's a little lower, you know. And everyone has their own interpretation, and if it's a little more guttural, right now it sounds a little forced, but you have to really work on it, and like and work in the acting and stuff. So
that's amazing,
cool.
Dude. And,
You know?
and by the way, that felt more like Arkham Asylum, Mark Hamill Joker. That's what it felt like. Yeah, that was so awesome, dude. Which were like, I think the first time I saw you kind of on camera was more as Nightwing, so I kind of associate you more as Nightwing. How close were you to actually like trying to get Warner Brothers to let you in the Bat family?
Well, what happened? What you mean, when I auditioned to be Nightwing?
Did you? I thought you actually were pretty close in the casting process, if I remember.
Well, okay. So what happened is that they wanted to cast the guy who was Nightwing in the Titan show. I forget his name. Waits or Brenton.
Brenton
Yeah.
Dawes or something like. Yeah.
So originally Warner Brothers wanted him from the beginning, but from my understanding that he didn't really want to put on the muscle weight, and he also didn't want to shave. So he was kind of on the fence. He didn't know if he wanted, because they shot in Toronto, and Toronto, some people love it, some people hate it. Some people I love the weather. Some people hate that weather up there, and he didn't really want to be in there. So he was kind of on the fence. So, and they were already heading into production, and they were like, well, like we have to cast Nightwing. So they already went through all the casting process of all the Nightwings. They already kind of had their eye on him, which is kind of normal because he was just in Pirates. That adds like a lot of weight.
That's right.
It shows
Yeah.
that he has the credibility, and the studio's confident to be like he can handle the series. That's a big deal. But then when they kind of like let all the casting go, they had to do like this emergency casting where they're like, well, if he actually doesn't come through, which really a lot of studios do this to kind of like almost like, it's kind of like, I don't even know the story, like how they offered it to Jack Nicholson, Joker, and then Jack didn't really want to do it. So like, we're going to give it to Robin Williams. And then Jack's like, well, I'll do it then if Robin's going to do it. So what happened was they called in, they had about, I think like 5 or 10 of us audition that and I was called in then, and I read for Nightwing then, which I think I even posted my screen test online. And, because they were like, because basically you had to submit like, I'm available, all these things are like, if it goes, it goes, if you like it. And then that pushed the guy to venture where he was like, I'll do it. I guess you guys really want me. So that's kind of what happened. So while I auditioned for it and I was that sort of thing, it's kind of yes and no, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how much they were really interested in me, or they were just trying to really kind of goad him. Maybe they were, maybe he could have stepped down and been like, Aaron's the way to go. I don't know. And I'm not saying that I would have been better than him. I think I look more like Nightwing than him, but I don't, I mean, he's done things acting wise that I've never accomplished. So, and that's important, so I could see why the studios would go with him.
But you're also a Spider-Man variant, if I remember correctly, too.
That is true. And that's true. And that's super cool. I have a lot of tie-ins with Spider-Man, which is like a fun, wonderful blessing growing up being a big Spider-Man fan. Having getting to know Stan, him being in my Beatdown series. He wanted to do actually another Beatdown. I did all the motion capture for the Andrew Garfield games, which then was subsequently used in Across the Spider-Verse, which I didn't even know about. Like, I'll tell you this. It's wild to go to a movie and expect to see a lot of cameos, but to see yourself cameo in a movie, it's like you're like, well, how'd you pull that one off? Which is cool. And I think there wasn't a lot of mocap used in that movie, so I was like one of the few. But I didn't do mocap for the movie. I was sampled in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm like, there I am. But it was talked about when Variety and Hollywood Reporter, they talked all the cameos. That was one of the cameos listed. So I was like, all right, well, I mean, if you want to put me in there, I'm like, I'll take it.
Right.
And I'm also a fan pointed this out, even though unofficial, although some will say it was kind of official because Stanley approved of it. I'm one of only 4 actors to appear on screen as Spider-Man live action with Stan Lee. Obviously, the other 3 being, Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield, who are official, of course. But if Stan was like, because Stan taught me a lot of the Spider-Man stuff and working with him a lot. So just a lot of wonderful blessing things. And it sounds like I'm bragging, but really just being very thankful to the fandom and the universe.
You have the life we all want. So
yes.
I wish and I try to share it with you. That's why I go on the lives and I try to do these beatdowns. And a lot of people have that sort of like I love when fans run into me at comic stores or toy stores. They're like, "Oh, I'm like, I literally am here all the time. Like, I love this shit."
Well, I mean, and that's one thing that's rare as someone who has 2+ million subscribers to do a live stream and just jump on their laptop or whatever and talk to your followers and subscribers. Like, that's, we don't see that a lot, especially like, me, myself, in the YouTube community, a lot of everybody kind of like stays off camera, use voiceovers or something like that. But you've from the beginning, you've been, my face is here. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is what I enjoy. And you've always been, even like, I've seen mostly on your Facebook, and I feel like that's where you talk more, like just talk more. But you're on there, like, what suggestions do you guys have? These are things I'm dealing with as a person. I want to let you guys know about it. Like, you've always been very open, an open creator. That's what you've been. And I think that's why people gravitate towards you, because it's not like, they go to someone like Mr. Beast and no one really knows that much about Mr. Beast, but we all know about Aaron Schoenke. We know, your dad, your girlfriend, we know your, all the things that you have done, because you've been in the camera eye like the last 15 years. And we've growing up watching you essentially, and I'm sure you've grown as well. So yeah, it's a good thing that you are so connected with your audience, and I think that's why you're so successful as a filmmaker and as a content creator as well.
I appreciate that. I try to be. I mean, a lot. It's funny. I get asked a lot, like, like, how do you have as many views and like your subscribers or the whatever? And they're like, what algorithm or when do you post? And I was like, I don't know anything about any of that stuff. I just make cool stuff and put it online. If you like it, you like it. You don't, you don't. And I was like, I just hop online, and a lot of people are like, Aaron, that hurts your algorithm because when you post like just the cool videos, that gets more engagement. When it's like it's not as engagement. And I was like, I don't really care. Like, it's just, I'm like, I'm really honest about a lot of things, and I know that's gotten me like into like some trouble or people
and you've transcended that. You transcended that. So you don't. Those are things, obviously like me, like I have to worry about those things. But like you have put out such high quality entertainment for the last 15 years. Every time we know we're gonna get something from you, it's gonna be the very best of what you want. Otherwise, you're not gonna release it. We know that,
right?
Like, so
that's what. Yeah, I mean, even like a lot of our beatdowns, we would promise release dates and have to push them back because we're like, it's not ready. Because the thing of it is like once it goes out in the world, it lives forever.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure it's good. And with White Dragon, it's like now it's like there's never going to be another Jason movie. So it's like this has to be good. And he was, very, he wanted it to be great, and that's what we got to do. So that's, I mean, and I sympathy for the fan. I have sympathy for the fans because sorry, I have a meeting right after this, so just let them know I'm gonna be like actually 5-10 minutes late, so I can keep talking because I'm enjoying you guys. But I understand why the fans are frustrated. I understand why the fans think that we're, like, because there's a lot of shady people out there, and I know a lot of Kickstarters are false, and they, I can understand all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But
which does bring us to Legend of the White Dragon. I think the first beatdown I ever watched was Scorpion versus White Ranger. And going back, and I know you explained this, but like kind of briefly, how did you meet JDF? How did you meet Jason David Frank?
It's a wonderful story. I've told it. I usually tell the story a lot when I go to like conventions and stuff because it just shows. It's a great example of how warm and raw Jason was. Because me and Jason were really similar. That's why we connected. Basically, we kind of weirdly enough is that we wanted to like on a beatdown. I was like, I want to do White Ranger. White Ranger was always my favorite as a kid. And I was like, so cool. And my friend had a White Ranger outfit. And he's like, you can borrow it if you want. And I was like, cool, great. And then I reached out to Jason. I had a friend. I had two friends that knew Jason. I was like, hey, like, we'd love to get you involved with this and so forth. And Jason had, watched your stuff. And he's like, this stuff's really good. Because Jason's he's a fighter. So he was able to be like, the fight. This isn't just like normal fighting. Like, you guys are like stunt guys. You know your stuff. He's like, this is really cool. He's like, I'd like to be involved with this. And he was, he was really in the convention scene and was getting bigger and bigger, and he really wanted something because he always wanted to do more with Rangers, and they never really took him up on that offer. So he was like, this is going to be great, like this, I'm gonna get to do some of the stuff I want to do. So it was like this kind of serendipitous, like, all right, cool, we're all on the same page, like right away, like instantly it just all clicked in. But he was like, come meet me and we'll talk about it. And I was like, cool. He's like, but I live in Texas. And I was like, oh, I live in Los Angeles. Like, I can't just, I was like, well, I can fly down. I'll fly down in a week. I'll fly down. I'll come down there. And he's like, oh, okay. And I remember telling me, he's like, you're serious about it. And I was like, yeah, I'm not like, I want to like, I have a trajectory that I'm going towards, and I want to be cool, and I want to do cool stuff. That's like, you got to put in the effort. You're not going to get anything accomplished from sitting on your couch. So flew down there. The cool thing was that he picked me up with Jenna and from the airport, which I was like, I'll get a ride, I'll get a hotel. And he was like, no, don't do any of that. He's like, you can just stay with me. And I was like, all right, you don't know me at all. Not that he would be in danger. I mean, he's a badass. But he was cool. He picked me up from the airport. We went immediately. I remember we went grocery shopping together because I had to go grocery shopping. So I'm just at the grocery store, just looking at cantaloupes with Jason, and Jenna. And you talked to Jenna. She remember this. This is now like 12 years ago or whatever.
Like, there's the Green Ranger and Nightwing looking at cantaloupes.
Yep. Yeah. And then we went back to Jason's place. We ended up just talking all night. I slept. He had a guest room, slept there, woke up. He had breakfast all out, and I'm talking more. We just started talking about like things he wanted to do. Because he basically, it felt like he didn't have like a partner, an ally creatively to like do a lot of the cool stuff that he wanted to do with Power Rangers or original stuff. And on that day, we ended up talking about the possible Green Ranger series, the ideas, doing his Morphin Life, because he said, I have all this footage of all the stuff that I've shot, I want to do, and I have edited and put out there. He's like, I don't know how to do that. And then we talked about White Dragon, or what was the early talks of White Dragon back then. And there's a great video of me and Jason that we filmed ourselves on the day that we met, sitting down in his living room, and we'll be like, we're working on something cool. We can't wait to show you fans. Just hold tight.
Wait,
And
so
then
White Dragon was from day one?
From day one, yeah. Like it wasn't called the White Dragon then, but it was like, we want this idea where this character has this, you know, like a lot of the story points that then have carried over into here. And this video, I'm gonna show. I'll eventually release it online when the movie comes out. But it's me and Jason in his living room, sitting there. We look hella young, and we're like, just fans. We're working on something cool. We can't wait to show you. And then when me and Jason were both in the White Dragon and Dragon Prime suit with our helmets off, we were saying, "Hey fans, we have it ready for you." And it's like a 10-year jump. And then we
That's
filmed
cool.
it, and it's pretty great, very heartbreaking a little bit, but wonderful.
That is awesome. So, Legend of the White Dragon. It's hard to ask you to do this. So, can you give us like a 2-sentence, like maybe 3-sentence synopsis on what you feel what Legend of the White Dragon would be about or is about?
That's
for those that don't know it. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I could pull the press release, but
I would give something different because you can read the press release, and that's like the more worded way to do it.
Yeah.
I think that it's a superhero movie, but like Jason and myself, as far as wanting to just be kind of raw and truthful. And I think that with Jason, he always wore his heart on his sleeve. I think that's why everyone connected with him so much. You know, Jason obviously had struggles, and he was honest about them. That's why people That's why Jason resonated with so many people. Jason and me wanted this movie to be, it's okay for superheroes to ask for help, because you see the hero, Jason's character, struggle, and you see my character struggle in the film with actual, like, when you're like they're both coming at this incorrectly. They misunderstand each other. There's a lot of hate here, but it's a lot of anxiety and anger that is misplaced. And it's like, we need to see through that. Things aren't like in superhero movies, things are very black and white a lot.
Yeah.
Which is kind of where they have to be, because some of them are made for kids or young adults, and they don't want to get deep into it. But like White Dragon deals with addiction, it deals with abandonment, it deals with suicide, it deals with, violence, and they kind of address it in there. And it's like, you really try to put it in there. Now, how well do we execute that? I don't know. I'm talking like it's this big Hamlet thing here, and you watch and you're like, yeah, it was all right. But we tried to do the best we can with that. But Jason wanted a superhero movie to be like, it's okay, the superhero needs help too.
Yeah.
And it's okay to watch a superhero struggle. And that's what he wanted to put in there. So I would say that would be on the other side. And when you really know Jason, when you watch the movie, really my character and Jason's character, Eric Reed and Jai Katua, they actually were both Jason in real life. And there's a lot of things that when you watch the movie and real life, you'd be like, well, it's kind of trippy, or, oh, I get to know Jason more. They were both the yin, because if you look at even the sideshow print that we released, the way the characters are fighting, they look like yin and yang.
Yeah.
And that was the balance in Jason. So that's
wow.
a lot of, it's weirdly, I always say it's kind of like how Birdman was to Michael Keaton.
Okay.
It's kind of what White Dragon is to Jason.
That's deep. Like that's I didn't know that. So that's going to be another layer, obviously, when I'm watching it.
And when the movie comes out, I'll come back on her and I'll go over all the details of things that people might not have missed that are kind of trippy, that are like, whoa, that's weird how this matches up to real life.
That'd be amazing, man. So, which leads us to our probably 5 questions that you get asked the most, that we're going to repeat them again for everybody that doesn't know the answer to the question. But Aaron, when is the movie coming out?
2045. No, it'll be so I know everyone gets mad and they think that we're stalling or using it or whatever.
And the thing is, because I've talked to Jenna too, so I know she's told me some things that like you guys still have things that you need to complete as well. So I know it's not as simple as like just pull, press play or whatever, whatever it is you do for Netflix or whatever.
So what, just kind of like the backlog on the whole thing is that we got through 90% of principal photography with Jason, and then we were missing about 10%. I originally said we got more of him, but going back and looking at everything, I realized that we missed a little more. He was supposed to come in the week after he passed, and we were supposed to grab those days, but so we had to, when we went back and we realized, oh, we need like more stuff. We have to go back and reshoot some stuff, which is super common, actually. I mean, heck, the new Captain America movie, Captain America 4, they test screened the assembly cut and realized they have to go back and add 8 months of filming, which is like crazy because the movie was such like a mess, which is also not uncommon. I mean, The Flash did it. A lot of other movies have done it. Some movies have done it to save them. Some movies haven't. But so we were going to go back, reshoot stuff. Of course, our shooting was rushed and was kind of tough to get through because we were in the middle of COVID. That whole global pandemic that affected everything. That was kind of like slowed us down. And then Jason's passing made it very hard to piece a lot of things together. But so we were trying to do that. And then Jason wanted to do certain things that we weren't able to do originally. And a lot of people have now come in with money or just talent willing to come in they don't need to get paid and they just want to contribute. So it was like, oh, we're able to do all these things. We're able to make it great. And now there's like a lot more pressure on it just because it's Jason's last movie. So we've quoted dates a few times before, and then it's like, oh, well, now it's like we can do more cool things. We need this to be better. We've brought in like a big Hollywood producer who's produced a lot of really big things to oversee the film just to make sure, because we understand like, how great this film can be. So now what it is that it will be completed in quarter one, like we said. That's what we're looking at, probably the very end of quarter one. And then basically you take it out to market, which you could either then go theatrical, but if all of a sudden like Netflix comes in or Hulu comes in, they're like, we want to buy it, then they buy it and then they dictate the release date and they can push it all the way back into Christmas of next year. I can't really say. Ultimately, you hate to say it's a business thing because this is where everyone's like, you're milking them. But the main thing is that whatever makes the most money that also gets it seen by the most people.
The best deal gets the best exposure.
Yeah, and it's like if you make, because a lot of times you're like, well, go theatrical. I'm like, but you could lose all your money on theatrical because you spend money to get out there, doesn't make a lot. And I want the film to make money so that Jen and Tammy see money from the thing, And people right now are like, oh, you're milking. And I was like, none of us have made any money from any of this film. I go, it's very silly. Everything, all any money that's generated goes into the movie. I go, so no one's pockets are getting lined or anything like that. No. So we want to do where it just gets seen by the most people. And it has the most respected. You don't want it to wind up on like Tubi or Crackle or anything like that. Not to disrespect those networks, because there's cool films on there too. It just, those are like, I see Jason being greater than that. I think we all do. For it to have a Netflix release or a Hulu, which I think has just got bought by Disney, but so it's like that's what or theatrical. That's what we'll probably do, a small theatrical run and then maybe go to Netflix but we're just waiting to see. Right now, the main thing is, and I can't stress this enough to people, we're just working on the movie, and it's so much work because like there are 1,500 effect shots in the movie, which is crazy to think. I don't know why we even attempted that. That was like kind of us being silly, but like, what the hell are we doing? We're like, we should make a beatdown that's 2 hours long. And you're like, there's a reason why beatdowns are 3 minutes long. So it's just, we're trying to make it great, but we want to do a premiere. We want to do like a red carpet type thing. Invite a lot of the fans to it. Like, we're trying to go as big as possible, but understand that like someone came online and just said like, I posted this thing online. They were like, Transformers Beast War, the Beast.
I saw that. Yeah.
They're like, that didn't even take as long as this. And I was like, that's $250 million.
There's probably like 300 people working on those effects.
More than that. Oh, no, they have way more than that. They have like 10,000 people working on those effects.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, y'all need to chill a little bit. Like, I was like, I have way more gray hairs now than I did beforehand because of this. So but that's,
we brought up a good point here, and I know you released it in the press releases too. You were saying the top 10 markets, which we all know right off the bat is LA and New York, right? But what about San Antonio?
That'd be a cool one. I'd love to do it. I mean, I'd love to get it out there to as many people as possible. Like, and I would probably fly to a lot of those, meet the people, do the thing. See, originally Jason was planning on, he was going to fly around and he was going to get everyone there. And that's what you want. And that's what's wonderful. And he'd have this thing that he's super proud of. Life doesn't work out the way you want to all the time. So, but that's, but we're waiting to see. But right now, the main thing is we just got to have it be great, because the greater the movie is, the more opportunity and the more places it can go. So exactly. We rush it right now and you turn out stuff that's like, it's not even done. Everyone's like, it's done. Why? I'm like, the movie's not done. I go, it's not done at all. There are tons of effects that need to get finished. There's a lot of things that need to work on. And it's just because we're trying to do something so crazy, but people, I don't know what it is. It's like we live in this weird limbo world, because some people expect it to be a YouTube video, and I'm like, this is a full theatrical movie.
Yeah.
Then on the flip side, people think that, and this is a compliment, people think our work is so good, that they think, that like, oh, why isn't it? I'm like, well, because we're not that. I watched this guy. This is my favorite insult that this guy gave to me. he's like, Aaron's hyping White Dragon like it's going to be great. That movie's not even going to even crack $100 million. And I was like, you think White Dragon's gonna make? I'm like, White Dragon's gonna not make that much money. I was like, if it makes like $1 million or $2 million, like that's great.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm like, your skew, you know, or people like, it's like it'll look like a CW. And I was like, you know, Superman and Lois was $8 million an episode for 40 minutes. We have a third of that budget for twice the length. So if we look good or better than CW, it's a win. Like,
I don't know, man. This thing is like, and maybe it's because I'm on the ground with the community and people messaging me all the time and stuff like that. But this thing's tracking. Like, this thing is a lot of interest, and I'm sure you know that as well. I'm not trying to freak you out or put pressure on you or anything like that. But you know, now that the Master Morpher is not an issue anymore, this is probably the number one thing I get asked about as a Power Ranger a content creator. And obviously this is a crossover, which are your first two questions you answered was when and then how you would see the movie. So the when is 2024 will be completed, and then that will be the decision whether it goes theatrical, streaming, and we'll figure it out after it's completed. The third question is, which a lot of people don't understand, is Legend of the White Dragon Power Rangers?
No, not at all.
Okay.
And the best way I can describe it is, you know, Zack Snyder pitched his Star Wars movie. Disney turned him down, so he made Rebel Moon. Totally original, different, has heart, you know, kind of ties back to it. The Boys was created as a satire to the Justice League, but it's not the Justice League. Seth MacFarlane created the
Orville.
Yeah, the Orville, because he pitched a Star Trek series. He loved it, and they were like, no, and he made his own thing. So all similar to what they started from. So the audience has a jumping on point, but are completely original and different.
Okay.
Why don't we talk about the cast? What I was going to ask you, you have a great cast that you casted for this movie as well. Yeah. I mean, you've got technically, which could have been Green Lantern in Arrowverse in there as well. How did that get, did you pick that character, or you had the same thing process, or do you already have him in mind for him?
So I had met David before, but Jason actually was friends with David.
Oh, nice.
He was friends. It's really actually a nice story. If you ever, David will probably tell that story at the convention this week. But basically, Jason was always so kind and so open and never had any walls. And I think the story was, because same thing with Mark Dacascos. It's the same story actually, because Mark Dacascos and David have sons. And I think that they told Jason, like, hey, my kid's like a big Power Ranger fan and he thinks you're really cool. And basically Jason had like a huge gift like basket of like all kinds of, because Jason has a ton of merch at his house, and he basically would just like sign a bunch of it and he just shipped it. And like David just says, like, one day I got that big box in the mail and it was just filled with, you know, with basically Power Ranger stuff that he signed for them. And David was like, you don't have to do that. He goes, people don't do that. You know, celebrities don't do that. So he he just, you know, and they just became friends. But a lot of people knew Jason that way because he was very kind.
Yeah.
So but that's how we, you know, and then Michael Madsen's in it in the film. And what's funny about, I knew Michael was in Dying is Easy, and Michael was Jason's he was his favorite actor. Like, and when he saw Dying is Easy, he called me and he's like, you got Michael Madsen. He's like, what? He's like, we need to put him in, and, you know, we need to put him in White Dragon. So I was like, cool. And in the movie he plays his dad, and he has like a really nice kind of scene. They have one scene together. So it's just like, you know, Jason's resources and my resources come together, and we were able to put that, you know, put that together, which is pretty cool. So and really try to play up the acting, because a big thing about Jason is that, you know, he did Power Rangers for so long that it actually kind of, it heightened his career, but kind of ruined his career, because people thought that he just couldn't, you know, because on Power Rangers, it's a kid's show. So you always have to be like, we're going to stop you, Rita. You have this kind of intonation the way you talk, which is great. He's doing a great job for what he's hired to do. But then people think that's all he can do. And Jason can actually act. And he's like, I've kind of like pigeonholed myself, and I want to show people that I can act. Let's bring in real actors and let's really act, you know? And he's like, I want to show people that I'm not just like a Power Ranger, you know, no disrespect to the Power Rangers. He's like, but I am more than that.
Yeah.
You know, so that's kind of like a big thing that he wanted to do.
So when you finally got this project off the ground, was it something that, I mean, of course you did the Arkham one and that was great, but this is something I feel that you have a lot of love that you're putting into this. And I feel like every artist that is out there who's a true artist takes their work really, really, they criticize their work so much, even though it's perfect in everyone else's eyes. In their eyes, they don't always see that. They still think it needs more work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Is that kind of what you're at right now? You kind of feel like I'm not there yet, but you know what I mean?
There's it's I feel that with every project. I feel that maybe more with this one. There's always a point in all projects that I do. It happens a lot. I'll go through and I'll be editing it and I'll be putting it together, and then I'll be like, it's all terrible. We should just scrap this project. It's not going to work. It's all terrible. Look how bad everything is. But then you get through it and you kind of sift through it and you're like, oh, it's just not bad. And they go, oh, it's pretty good, And I felt that about, like, we shot Batman Vader like first 2 days. And I was like, oh, it's just all not going to work. And then
Dude, that was
like,
gorgeous. That one was the best. So I do a Star Wars stuff podcast as well.
okay.
That is my favorite beatdown. That I was like, I watched it. I don't know how many times I watched that one. Seeing Batman fight Vader was so freaking cool. I like that. I don't know how you came up with that. I mean, the fans and stuff like that, but it was just perfect in every way. But
my internet has not gone down in a year, and went down on one of the most important nights I've ever had on YouTube. Yeah.
But you're back.
I'm sorry about that, guys. So I'm sure you. Thank you, Ray, for carrying on. I appreciate you, man. One question I did get, and I got it from Diana, and you may know it, Diana, but she was asking, what inspired the Legend of the White Dragon suits, and who designed them?
So basically, the inspiration kind of was like Old Man Logan, in terms of just Jason wanted to feel like the hero that was brought back to do kind of like one last heroic thing, and that was he loved Logan. Wolverine was his favorite character, so he's like, I want to do something like that, kind of like not an old he said, like, not an old man Tommy. And that's kind of what we pitched that to Boom. We pitched Return of the Emerald Dragon, which then they end up taking and making Soul of the Dragon. That's a whole drama garbage, but that was kind of like where that came from, in terms of wanting to make it what it was. And as far as designing the suits, I came up with the initial designs, and then I gave them to Brian Morton. Brian Morton does he doesn't get enough credit. He did the Force Awakens poster. He did like all the Boba Fett posters.
Nice.
Like the main posters, not like fan art online, like the actual main posters. Like he's one of the most prolific. He did like Guardians of the Galaxy poster. He did the Endgame poster. Like he really doesn't get enough credit. I wish he would. I wish people would know him more. But anyways, he then went through and helped flesh out the designs of the suit. And then we had 3D digital renderings of them, which look cool. And then we took those to the costume makers, and then they tried to adapt those into real life as much as possible.
Which reminds me, somebody got an action figure.
Oh yeah, yeah. I have those figures. They're in the other room, actually. They're super, super cool. They look great. I recommend everyone go out and buy them.
I pre-ordered mine.
Nice.
Even though the pre-order early on was
there's so many people.
It was difficult. It was difficult. Yeah.
Everyone should. They can either go on Valaverse.com or go on BigBadToyStore.com and order them right from them.
Yep.
So the reach is pretty wide, which is great, and they're doing well. So definitely hop on there and get those. Jason loved action figures, and he was like really hyped for these. It's very sad. It's one of the main. There's a lot of sad things involved with this, but it's actually like one of the things that is very sad that we're together there, but not in real life. And he would have just, every convention, he would have been just so excited, because he kept telling me, he's like, we got to get action figures. We got to get action figures. I can't wait to get these action figures, So
are there any other toys planned or figures planned?
If those do well, there will be, but those have to sell well. Obviously, we're a new IP, so we can't really, storm the market.
So I heard a rumor about if it does well, Walmart was interested in.
It is a rumor. If we can, if they were to sell, if we were to sell a certain number, then it makes it eligible for Walmart to deem it worthy for them to order it. But I think that'll maybe happen when the movie comes out, just because it's so hard to
more visibility. And,
like the numbers are doing well. They're selling well, actually. It's just that it's a new IP, so it's hard to buy something based off that doesn't exist yet. Once people see the movie and they're like, oh man, when they watch they fight and everything like that, then they'll be like,
that's awesome, man. So, Legend of the White Dragon, to be clear, 2024. It's not Power Rangers, although it has its origins. We have action figures, and those do come out in April of 2024. So you can pre-order now, and then they will come out in April 24. I do know that because I checked that. So to kind of touch base, and there's been a lot of talk. I guess we'll just call it that way. And everybody here in the stream knows that we are a channel of positivity. We try to do our best to see. Well, we do see the good in everything, but we do, address when things happen. So we've also had this really stupid thing that happened that with the manager that we're not going to talk about tonight, but it's already been discussed at length. McGinnis, and then but the negativity on, I think I see it more on Twitter than anywhere else, especially in the Ranger community. And of course, I know Legend of the White Dragon is not Power Rangers, but it is like adjacent right now. So how do you deal with just people just talking like that? Like, I don't know. How would you deal, or how do you deal with it?
Well, I think, like it depends. Like there was a podcast, like because I end up running my mouth in terms of just speaking the truth. I'm like, this is what it is. A lot of people think they know the truth because they grew up with these characters, but they don't know the people. And I'll end up just saying, this is the truth, take it or leave it. And there was one podcast that I was on last week. I reached out to them as well, and they were just throwing like mad hate and trash towards me, which is not necessarily the worst thing because they're passionate about Jason. They're just on the wrong side of where we need to be. But like, it's kind of like your heart's in the right place, but your mind isn't. So I reached out and I was like, hey, let me hop on your podcast. Let me talk to you guys. And then I was joking with them. I was like, you guys said some really wonderful things about me, and they were laughing. And it's just like, but then by the end of it, though, they're like, I understand, Aaron, I understand what you're saying now. And I was like, yeah, and really, like, I don't like text messaging. And if you end up text messaging me like 3 cents, I'm like, just call me. Because it's like, you can understand when people talk and like where they're coming from. And like, this is what it is. And people just don't understand. Because I mean, they say people nowadays have like a 20% less emotional depth than they did like 10 years ago, just because you're just reading bare sentences and you're taking everything out of context and you're assuming things, and it just leads to so much drama. Yeah. And it's so I was like, let me explain to you where I'm coming from and why I voice what I voice and why I get frustrated. Because a lot of people see Jason as the hero that he is, and that he's the Green Ranger and all sort of stuff, but I see him as my very, very close friend that I know all the inner details. I know his family very well. And, when I see people comment and they accuse, Jenna for milking Jason's legacy, or Tammy for being somehow cause of all this, I have to really clap back pretty hard, because it's like, you don't know anything that went on. That's super insultive. I go, that's his wife. She loves him. She did everything she could. You don't know the inner workings of their marriage.
So, and if I could say something, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I think this goes right into what you're saying is, and I have talked to a lot of people, that were part of Jason's circle. So there's three different versions of Jason, is what I'm hearing. Is there was the public persona, right?
Yes.
And there was the people that he worked with, whether it be on the show, colleagues in the con circuit, interviewers like me, maybe media and stuff like that. And then there was the man, like, with his family, like Jenna, Tammy, and then his friends like you and Tony. So is that correct? There was like 3 different.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's
and I think where a lot of people, they knew the second version, where the colleague, working person that he, and even like media or people that were content creators that, had Jason on often or anything like that. But that was still a different version than you knew Jason.
Correct. Oh yeah. Very different. Yeah.
So,
and just a lot of people don't know that person. And there's certain things that Jason talked about fervently. There's certain things that he wanted people to know. There's certain things that I feel that, and this gets pretty deep into it, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but Jason was used a lot by a lot of people, and I saw it. I knew him for 10 years. Saban really lied to him about, oh, we'll do this, but keep promoting this for us, and they never did it. And a lot of people, some Ranger actors, not all of them, because there are some wonderful Ranger actors that are super awesome, great people out there, but some of them also like to clout ride, and they wanted to use that, and they wanted to use him, and or studios used him, or other people just used him. And I get mad at that, because Jason, I always say he gave so much to everyone that I worry that he didn't save enough for himself. And I was like, you using him and making him feel that he's worthless, that is on the pathway to suicide. And because you feel worthless, you feel like people don't value you. I'm not saying they're the direct cause, because there's a lot of things that go into that. But it's just like, so when I see people still doing stuff like that now, it's just very frustrating, you know. And yeah, people have to understand that I'm very protective of my friend, and you know, they're like, well, we don't hear Jason saying, like, I heard this one person, you know, this writer out there was like, I'd rather hear it from, don't believe anything until you hear the man himself say it. And I want to be like, all right, here's 10 minutes of audio of him actually saying it. You know, I want to just basically, I've told the Tammy and Jenna and Francis, I was like, I'm just going to drop 5 minutes of Jason's audio online, his words. I'm not going to say anything. Like, I'm not going to explain it. I go, these are his words. Don't even let me get caught up in that. And I'd only drop the things that Jason wanted to know. Like, you know, Jason, you know, before he passed, was actively trying to take everything of Lord Draken off the internet. I have tons of messages of him messaging me, his assistants, copyrights, being like, how do we remove this? I need this removed. I want this removed. And I was like, that's what he wanted. You know, for people like, why are you talking for him? I'm like, it's what he wanted. It's literally what my friend wanted.
Yeah.
Like, he was actively trying to get everything removed offline. So you can like it or not like it, but it's the truth.
And I think as the fans, I think everyone's thinking like you have to sort of pick a side, and you really don't. Like, we're fans, right? So like, and I know you have your issues with Kyle Higgins and Boom Studios and Hasbro and Saban, but like, I think you respect the fact that I can go over there and watch or read something that I like, and I can enjoy it, and you can respect that I enjoy it, right? But it's not like you're telling people don't support these things, right? Because you're not. And I think I get that. You know, I'll be honest. Like, so when you talked about the return about Amy Jo Johnson, and then they introduced Olivia Hart, or we found out later it was Olivia Hart, but we knew that there was going to be a female Green Ranger, and you were assuming it was Jenna. It was a Jenna inspired character, right? And people immediately messaged me like after you said that, and like, I'm not like a 2 million subscriber channel, like, but I had about like 10 people message me saying, do you know Aaron said that Amy Jo stole JDF's idea, and that she doesn't like, or JDF never liked Amy Jo? And I'm like, show me where he said that. And you said, well, Jason was not as close as to Amy as he would have liked to have been. And then you said that Jason had come up with this story, or come up with a similar sounding story before. You never said Amy Jo stole Jason's idea. You never said Jason did not like Amy Jo. It's just like, I think people are just like, when they get so like tunnel vision on something, they can't hear anything else. But I think where my goal as a channel is to be like, let's look at everything as it is rather than what you think it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people assume, and then it's very fragmented. Like, you know, like people would ask questions. Like, the problem is, like, there's a thread, right? And you end up responding to different threads, and it's like part of a bigger thread. And then if you take what I said in this thread, you know, and then not compare to like explanation, because even like when I said that, you know, I said Amy and him weren't that close, and they're like, oh, so they weren't friends. I'm like, no, they were definitely friends. They talked all the time. It just what happened was that someone was like, what happened? I said that if they end up using Jason's idea, I hope he gets credit. Like, basically is what it was.
That's yes.
And I was like, because I've seen a lot of his ideas stolen, and I'd like to see him get credit. And then they're like, Amy would never do that. They were each other's best friends. And I was like, well, they weren't that close.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, and then I was like, oh, now and then it gets weird. I was like, close is now being talked about in terms of what does close mean? I was like, well, I'm saying that they weren't best friends. They were friends. You know, they talked a lot. Jason, I'm sure, loved her, you know, and she loves Jason, you know, like, there's like, I'm not casting any disparages onto that, but it's just like in terms of the inner circle, Amy was not in the inner circle,
No.
but that's not a bad thing though, and that's not a disparage, you know, like in terms of any disrespect to her, you know, because they're definitely friends. I mean, you have friends that there are friends that I have, that you guys have, that you see once a year, that you're very close with. I'm talking about in that like close inner, like you talk to them every day kind of thing. But, and it was really, and it wasn't supposed to be like, oh, you're just making it, you know, like Amy and Jason hate each other. And I was like, I was really just responding back to, like, someone said, they said no one cried more, or no one was sadder than Amy. Yeah. And I was like, well, I mean,
that's subjective. Yeah.
Like Amy and like me, and like just because she put a video online of her crying doesn't mean, I was like, contextually, but it's not to take anything away from Amy though. And I hope her book does well. And I know that she and Jen, the reason why I knew a lot about it and heard different things, and her and Jenna talked about the book months ago, you know, so I was like, I know a lot. And that's why it's funny. I said someone this one like guy on Twitter, he was so mad at me, and then when it came out that it was the daughter, then they're like, oh, I guess Aaron was right. And I was like, I wasn't lying to you, but I'm not saying she stole anything. She probably like if she goes like Jason to help inspire this, I'm like, great, that's really all I just want Jason to get credit for. I'm sticking up for my friend in death just to make sure he gets respected. And I was like, and then it's like you, and I was like, dear God.
Yeah.
What's the one thing about people don't realize, and this is in the comic world and Hollywood itself, anytime that you pitch an idea to somebody, they may not agree for it right then and there, but they're like, okay, we're going to put this in the back burner. And so gave us this idea, but then later on they turn around and okay, we're going to take this and we're going to take that and we're going to try to do this. Which
it is, and a lot of people they think they want money, and it's like all the stuff that we pitched originally, to Boom and everything. And I was like, me and Jason just want the credit. I go, I don't want any money at all because comics pay so little. I was like, comics pay almost nothing. So
yeah,
like,
exactly.
I don't really care. And it's like a lot of people like just give you context, like like the organic web shooters that Toby had in the movies. That was because of James Cameron, because when he wrote his original script back in the early 90s, there were organic web shooters, and that idea kept jumping around. Now a lot of people don't know that that's because of him. I wish they did, because that's what it's from. And like, give credit where credit's due. And that's like a lot of times I'll speak up, and just that hurt Jason a lot, just because he wanted so much to be a part of things and be on that side of stuff. And his name just kept getting disrespected, and I could see that it hurt him. So I get very, protective, like a brother, just like being like,
I agree with you,
my friend, like. And I'm not saying, and what's funny is when I said what I said, because I'll throw shade out there sometimes. Everyone's like, they're like, you throwing shade at Amy? And I was like, I wasn't throwing any shade at Amy. I've never met her. I have no problems with her. I was like, I was throwing shade at Boom.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the only time I've really seen you throw shade was.
And I'll be honest with it. And like I said, I'll play you audio messages right now of him just throwing Boom, Saban, Kyle, Draken, super under the bus of how much he hated all of that. But I don't, because it's also like it gets into more of like a problematic storm. And I was like, I hate drama. I go online to talk with people, connect with people, and it's also at the end of the day, it's super silly to be arguing over Power Ranger stuff when we have real things going on in the world that I'm like, it's a blessing to even argue about like the Green Ranger and this and that. And I was like, I love all that stuff, obviously, but it's like, if you turn on the real news,
things are going on.
I was like, this is a blessing to even argue about this. So let's just chill out a little bit.
So it gets back to
real quick, wait, because we're getting up in an hour, and I promise we'll do this.
Okay.
So I can give you 5 minutes. I can give you 5 minutes too, and then we'll.
Cool. So if you want this United States only, just put in the comments #Dragon, and we'll do a quick giveaway. Jenna Frank signed with her dad as the White Dragon, and then a Dragon Prime pop socket. Is that what it's called? Pop socket. We'll give that away. So #Dragon in the comments. I'll pull those. We're gonna do that in 2 minutes. But Aaron, I wanted to really thank you for reaching out, man. Like, I really appreciate it. I really, like Ray said earlier, like, I really enjoy all the things that you have done previously. I am so stoked about Legend of the White Dragon coming up. I have been for a while, obviously, and I know a lot of people feel that way as well. And also on a level, I don't know if you know, but you actually shared one of my videos very early in my YouTube career. I did one of the first videos on the Master Morpher when it was the breaking news sort of thing. And I was carrying my daughter in the video, and you shared it on your page, and I didn't know till 2 days later, and I was trying to figure out why it was blowing up. And so I want to say thank you for sharing one of my videos and about the Master Morpher. And that was another thing with his audio saying that he wanted that if he was going to work on something, he wanted to do that with Hasbro. So I do want to say thank you as well.
Of course. Yeah, happy to help. Yeah, he was. He always wanted to make sure it was right for the fans. That was always his big thing. Because originally they weren't going to do the Master Morpher. He was pushing them to do that, and then they eventually did it.
It's awesome. I mean, I know it's a big deal, and I know we'll talk about that maybe later on, maybe a second stream. But real quick, we got 41 entries. I am going to go ahead and draw United States only, guys, and good luck to whoever wins. And the winner will be. And you just please message me on either Instagram, Facebook, or you can email me on thelegacyofnerd.com. We got so this content creator, her name is Kai, and she's actually getting ready to do a nationwide ride on her Harley to bring mental health awareness. She said that Jason, she was having a bad day, and Jason like recognized it, and came and like reached out to her, and she wants to do it in remembrance of him, to bring awareness to mental health. So that
Well,
I'm awesome. I'm happy she won.
I could say that Jason would love that. He was a big mental awareness. I mean, he loved to raise awareness for that, and he loved his bike. So he would think that's very cool. So if she's listening, I can tell you that Jason would be really warmed by that. And that story sounds very much like Jason. I can't tell me how many people come up to me, and they'll be, and this is not to sound disrespectful, but a lot of people come up to me and they'll be like, I was friends with Jason, and they weren't necessarily friends with Jason. And what I'm saying, like the way, like, oh, but I was like, but Jason was so open, you felt like you were friends with him. You know what I'm saying? And you kind of were. And it's not to say that you weren't. I'm not trying to take that away from anyone, because they all were. The thing is, it's so casual that Jason was able to transition his fans to friends, and I've had so many people come up to me and they would tell me the same story. And I've seen it on set too. Like when you're on White Dragon, people, like, a lot of times etiquette, when you work with big actors, they stay over here, and it's like everyone in the cast over here, no one talks to them. But I'd have everyone come up to me. I was like, Jason gave his phone number to everyone on set, and everyone was texting him. And Jason would go up to a PA and be like, you look kind of sad today, what's up? So like when you go up to fans and do this, I'm like, all these stories are true. Like he was really, because I think that Jason he had his own issues that he felt that he understood people right away, and he could connect with them right away, and he could. So he used his, they say that the great thing about all superheroes is that they use their weakness for their strength, and that's what Jason did. So I think that's wonderful that she's doing that.
And I've heard a lot of stories like that as well. I think you were watching a little bit of the second annual tribute stream I had this weekend. But I got a lot of that in the comments, and I do want to remind everyone here, if you didn't know, I am going to do an open mic night, because I felt like so many of you guys had stories, like real like stories, and I want you to come on and share them. So we'll have that in the future. I'll announce that here soon. This came up, so obviously I want to speak with Aaron as quickly as possible. So Aaron, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time, and Legend of the White Dragon, I'm super excited about it. Thank you. I mean, everything you've done and everything that you continue to do. I want to say thank you for everything.
So I have one last question for you too.
Sure.
Go ahead. So I know you're a Patriots fan. I'm just, because I'm a big Patriots fan, so I'm with him.
I'm not. I'm a Cowboys fan. Sorry, chat.
Cowboys are playing right now. What are you doing during this podcast?
You said you needed to. I
know. I'm sorry.
So, like, Brady gets a lot of hate as well, but he's like you. He puts in the work. He puts in the time to study everything. But that's where people are gonna you kind of have to prove to them that hard work pays off, and you've done a lot of that.
Well, I appreciate that. And if I want to go on a little bit of a sports rant here, because I'm a big sports fan. I am a Patriots fan, but I'm more of a Tom Brady fan. So wherever Tom Brady goes,
I was wondering
about
that. Okay.
And the thing was, like, recently, and this is where people, like, when people look at just very singular facts, and this gets very frustrating, because just recently, like, Tom Brady came out and he says that there's not a lot of excellence. There's a lot of mediocrity in the NFL. And it's true. And people assume that he was talking about the quarterbacks, and he was really just talking about just overall, just the way that the game is going right now, that, the coach and quarterback relationship, we're not nurturing the quarterbacks as much, but people just really took to Tom Brady and started hating him. And then Alex Smith jumped on the hate train and was like, whatever, Tom, you played in the softest division ever. And I was like, all right, so let's go a little further within this, Alex Smith. I was like, the same record he had with his division, he had with the entire league. All right. So I was like, so don't give me that. Also, Tom Brady played in arguably the most stacked quarterback era ever.
True. Yeah.
I was like, because right now, who quarterbacks do we have? Obviously, you have Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. They're really good. But you go back then, Kurt Warner, you have Aaron Rodgers, you have Ben Roethlisberger, you have Peyton Manning.
Brett Favre was early on. Yeah.
You have so many different. I mean, you can go down the list here. I mean, I could give you a bunch of different names here. You had Russell Wilson back then, who's still playing, who actually is coming back on. Like, it's like he played in a hard era, and he had to go against arguably the second greatest quarterback of all time, and that's Peyton
someone
Manning.
said Brock Purdy, and I'm like,
Brock Purdy. I mean, I think the 49ers could win it if they can stay healthy this year.
Yeah.
But I was like, Brady played against the second greatest quarterback of all time, and denied Brady from 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
So it's like, so when they're like, well, Brady, you play in a soft division, I was like, that's like that. You're looking at singular facts.
Yeah.
And you're like, you got to look at the whole thing. Brady's stats are so ridiculous. You know,
dude, me and you could have a podcast just on this stuff alone.
Love sports.
I'm oh, dude, me too. Michigan Wolverine getting so much hate. I'm a big because of Brady, Jeter. I mean,
so
those
dumb.
two, yeah.
Oh yeah,
So,
don't get me
yeah.
started on Deflategate and just the idiocy of people just being like that. That literally,
Dude,
I just
I
say
love it,
this
Aaron.
on that. People were like, first of all, you play the ball 2 pounds, you can't even. It's just squishy. Also, 2 refs touch the ball every play. Like, there's no way you get away with that. Also, the crazy thing is, there actually wasn't 2 pounds under pressure. It was 0.2 under pressure. Which my car, when it's cold out, goes, your air pressure's a little low because it's cold. I'm like, hold on a second. My car knows what the fucking refs and these haters on it. I was like, if I was in court, I'd be like, I like to bring in my car to testify. Like, I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Oh my God.
Also, then they suspended him, locked him down. He won 4 more Super Bowls.
Right. Right after that too. That was like, screw you guys. Like, yeah.
Love it, Aaron. Love it. Love it.
Well, we'd love to have you back. We can talk more Legend of the White Dragon, and we can talk more how the Cowboys are better than the Patriots.
Right now they are. Right now they are. I don't know what the score of this game is. I will say though,
it just turned 28-20
right now. Every team you play this year had a losing record except for the 49ers, and you guys got smacked by them.
Look, Aaron. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and end the stream now. But thank you, Aaron, for joining us. Signing off here, guys. I'm the Legacy Nerd, Retro Ray from the Countdown City Geeks.
Appreciate you guys.
Stuff podcast and Spurs Stuff podcast. You guys have a great night and be good to